Okay, so this is our fourth meeting. This is the Great Basin Complex Incident Management Team 3. Welcome. I'm Toby Weed, and have a nice list of speakers tonight. You've seen most of these folks before, but I have a couple quick announcements. First, if you haven't heard, the evacuation levels have been lifted or lowered to the ready level 1 stage around the Danskin area and the Lightning Creek area. So just a reminder, ready means that you need to be ready to go. And we all know that that's the way we are in this area. We're ready. So we'll just kind of remain that way. And even though you're not in a ready, if you're not in a ready level, still be ready, because this is fire country and it's the fire time of year. This is when we have the fires up here. So that's good news. We also have Chief Cleveland here this evening, and he's not going to speak, but he'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. And our next community meeting will be on Monday night at 6 o'clock in this location. Okay? So our first speaker is our incident meteorologist, Colin McKellar. It'll be followed up by our fire behavior analyst, Eric Valdez. And then Brad Mihalik will give you a operations briefing. You've seen Brad on our website, on the Facebook page, and you know he gives very good briefings. So we're lucky enough to have him here. And then quick, Chris Waverick from the Forest Service would be our agency administrator. And then we'll have a brief closing with Brett Waters, the IC or incident commander. And so it's a pretty good lineup. It's like I said, it shouldn't be unfamiliar to you at this point. And we're looking forward to hearing from them. After that, we'll have a question and answer period, and we'll stay until all of the questions are asked. And after that, we'll be up front here to answer more questions. Okay, so thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Colin McKellar. I'm an incident meteorologist. For those I haven't seen or been to one of these, an incident meteorologist embeds with a team and provides hyper-focused forecasts just for this wildfire. So going forward to today and what we've seen yesterday, very smoky. With high pressure aloft, it brings light winds. With light winds, we get poor dispersion, and this smoke that forms just kind of settles across all of central Idaho, and it's all literally central Idaho, all the way down to the border. Boise today was socked in at a 1.5 mile visibility, so it's everywhere. Going forward into Saturday, we're going to see much of the same thing tomorrow. Light winds aloft, that means we have poor dispersion and trouble getting the smoke out of this valley. This valley especially has been pretty smoky. It's a low spot. We have wildfire smoke from the Wapiti and this wildfire complex. That said, we're going to remain dry tomorrow, kind of 15% RHs like today. We're going to remain a little warmer with that high pressure building in, and we're going to remain those low RHs in the morning. So dry and getting hot as we head into Sunday. Sunday, we get a little bit stronger winds aloft. We have a system pushing in from the Pacific, and that's going to start impacting us Monday. So that's subtropical moisture and a trough pushing through. With that, we're going to increase those chances of showers and thunderstorms about 30% right now. The main concern of those is gusty outflow winds. With a dry air mass in place, that's typically what we see with that kind of pattern, is those thunderstorm wind gusts. I'll be looking at that. The best chances right now are Monday and Tuesday. Good thing about that, though, not good thing, but we will get higher humidities and the cloud cover and slightly lower temperatures. Heading after Monday and Tuesday, we're going to ridge kind of back out again. One thing I will point out is that Monday, Tuesday may be stronger winds along those ridges, especially as we get that incoming trough. After that, we're going to ridge back out and kind of warm back up. Those are roughly around seasonal temperatures to lightly above seasonal temperatures. And we're going to continue with those high or better RH recoveries during the morning and slightly better minimum RHs during the afternoon. Point is, smoky today, smoky tomorrow. We have moisture coming in Monday, Tuesday with a chance of thunderstorms. And then we're going to get those clouds cover that's coming in as well those days. And then we're kind of seasonal temperatures heading in to the end of the 7-day forecast. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Eric Valdez, Fire Behavior Analyst. So with these parameters that Colin just highlighted, and we're not going to talk about the smoke just yet, but this is really conducive to active fire behavior. When you have those humidities, that temperature, those terrain-driven winds, that really promotes a lot of active fire behavior. However, with the smoke, and it's just like folks that are familiar with the fireplace, this is a dampener, and it really has dampened and moderated the fire behavior across the whole fire area. So when we would normally have seen exceptionally active fire behavior here over the last couple days, the smoke that is hard to breathe, and it really is awful for us. It really limits the fire as well for all kinds of reasons. So we're lucky in a way that we are experiencing these conditions while we're also experiencing or could be experiencing these really high indices. And the fact that we're not having to deal with the full brunt of these really low humidities and high temperatures, it's kind of it's a good thing from a firefighting standpoint. And I'm sure the operational folks will, and Brad will talk about how this has been able to affect them on the ground. So if we can get through the next couple days, and we'll probably be under this inversion layer, especially at these lower elevations, the fire is going to continue to be moderated. It's still active, it's still burning, but instead of burning at the highest percentiles and really putting off the most amount of energy it absolutely can, it's really knocked that down to something that's a little bit more manageable. And we're hoping that we can keep this type of environment until we can get to these higher humidities that we're going to have later on, early, like Tuesday, Wednesday, because that will take us back to kind of the fire weather and the fire behavior that we experienced at the beginning of this week, back to like Sunday, Monday. And that was a lot less active, and the potential on the fire was a lot less. So up high, we're still seeing a lot of smoke. We're still seeing a lot of heat produced. That's at those really high elevations up by the reservoir, up over just way up high on the hill, east of us here. But that fire, as soon as that fire kind of moves down and gets back into the smoke, it just calms right down. So we're looking good from that standpoint. And if we can just make it out of these low RH potential with kind of these similar conditions, that fire is going to continue to be moderated. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Brad Mihalik, one of the operations section chiefs. Like the IMET and the fire behavior analysts have saying, we've had a significant decrease in fire behavior over the last 2 days. And that's really allowed us to make some significant progress in some of our high priority areas on the fire. So with that, we'll kind of walk you around the fire here and let you know what's going on and on the 2 fires here. Are we able to move north at all? That's good enough. That's good. Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, that's good. So we'll start over here in the area of the Bulldog Fire, and we'll start up north here. Up this 671 road, north of the Bulldog Fire, we've come out here with some indirect hand line, meaning it's out in front of the fire. So we're pulling this hand line north from the 671 road down here and tying it in up here into this Rattlesnake Trail system up here. The reason for this is we didn't really like this holding feature on this road just due to the fuel type in here. It's really thick and would be really tough to hold the fire on that road there. And we were concerned about it spotting over that road if we were to allow the fire to come all the way to the road. So what we've done is come out here and we're putting in our own hand line out here and encompassing this Silver Creek Lodge area. So this line here is preventing this part of the Bulldog fire from impacting the Silver Creek Lodge. We also have folks in here, Silver Creek Lodge area, doing structure protection mitigations on all the structures and infrastructure in there. That is mostly completed. We're just doing some final touches on that operation up in there. Moving down south here, we can move the map south a little bit. Moving down south towards the Bulldog fire, a little bit closer on the west end of it. This is hung up or parked itself right on the Middle Fork Road corridor there, and it's been there for the last week. Hasn't moved at all. Looking really good. So we don't anticipate any more western movement from the Bulldog fire. So we're just patrolling and monitoring this area just to ensure it's staying in place and not doing anything funny. Coming down on the south west end of the fire here, this area, kind of the same as this, we've have containment lines around this. We're really comfortable with this section right here, and we're just continuing to patrol and monitor this area. The concern on the Bulldog fire is more this eastern end here in Lightning Creek, in the Lightning Creek drainage here. That's why we're implementing these indirect lines out here. You can kind of see them here, some hand line and mixed line with equipment. That's in the event that this piece here tries to start kind of moving southwest and hooking around back towards Crouch. So we have these lines indirect here, and we're not really able to put folks in here just due to its remoteness and the difficulty of the terrain. So we're putting these lines in here in the event this would start to move this way. We could utilize these lines and hold and do some firing operations if needed. So we're pretty comfortable with the area here. It hasn't moved in a couple of days. We've been really using a lot of rotor wing here in the Lightning Creek just to keep this checked up right here, and that seemed to work. It's kind of hung up in some lighter fuels in that area. So we haven't seen much movement in here in the last couple of days and feeling pretty good about it, but we are going to continue with this line in the event that, you know, even weeks down the road after we're gone, if something were to happen here and this starts to move around, this line is in and ready for folks to come in and take care or be able to implement this line to prevent that. So that line will stay in place for some time. Moving up the east side of the Bulldog fire, we have had some significant increase in activity up here the last couple of shifts. It's up here just cleaning up some bowls and in the Rattlesnake burn scar here, moving to the east a little bit. But like I've said before, there's really no values at risk out here. So we're not gonna put our folks out here to do anything here. We're just gonna continue to monitor this, and we kind of expect this to move and possibly connect with the Nelly fire in the future. South a little bit more, please. We can keep going a little bit here. There we go. Coming down through the communities of Crouch, Garden Valley, a little bit more south, and through the Highway 17 corridor down here, we have a lot of residents and houses down on the corridor as well. We have our structure protection group out here, still doing their work, ensuring that they're ready to deploy the equipment that they have cached out here in the event that we do get some sort of push to the west. So those folks will stay in place for the distant future here. Can you guys see this map at all? If you want, scoot in closer around if you want. Or should I wait for you? Keep going?
I don't think this is coming back. I don't think I have enough.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we'll come out here to the Nelly fire. This western edge, we can, I can make it make sense. So with that dozer line that we brought down here 4 or 5 days ago, we were able to fire that off 3 shifts ago, meaning we put fire on the ground with our drip torches and our crews, and we were able to bring this out to our indirect line and hold it there. So now we have fire all the way to our line with our hose lays, and they're starting to mop that all up, and it's looking really good. Moving up north a little bit from what we're calling the spaghetti bowl area where all these roads are, we have another chunk of indirect line out here that's completed. But with the decrease in fire behavior the last couple of days, we've been able to get in here right on the fire line because the fire behavior is moderated so much it's allowed our crews to get quite a bit closer to the edge of the fire. So now we are on the edge of the fire here, putting line in right around the edge with equipment and crews. So this chunk in here is almost completely locked in. And that was one of our big concerns here. So another shift here, we should have that completely locked in. And then we still have our indirect line out here that it was our initial plan for a contingency if this were to start moving west. So really, in the next couple of shifts, today, by the end of today and through the shift tomorrow, we'll be feeling really comfortable about having this whole west side locked in really well, which was one of our main concerns of pushing back towards Garden Valley and Crouch. So that was a big step for the fire here. Along the Highway 17 corridor, this back down to the highway last week, looking really good. This is all contained in here. No worries there. We're just continuing to patrol and monitor that. Out here in the Birch Creek area, we're watching that section that's coming down to the highway. That really hasn't moved in the last couple of days. It backed into a grassy fuel type, and with the little bit of elevated humidity and decrease in fire behavior, this has kind of just parked itself and is just kind of creeping around in there. So we're just continuing to watch this. No real concern there. Moving around into Julia Creek area over here, we are putting in a little bit of indirect hand line on a road, we're improving a road basically for some indirect line in the event in the future if this fire wants to move to the east. Again, we have a line in place here similar to over here on the Bulldog fire for, out in the future if this wants to move around, that line is there. Up through the east side, all along the east side here, that's all hung up on the Pioneer Scar, which I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with from, I don't remember when that was. I was here 2015, 16 maybe, 16. So that's all looking really good, just creeping around in there, not really doing much. We'll just keep monitoring this by air and hope for winter to come and put that out. So no real concerns in here at all. Coming up to the Deadwood Reservoir area, this was one of our other big priorities, just due to the fact that if this moved north out of here, there really wasn't anywhere to catch it for quite a while. So we've been working really hard in there to try to prevent this from moving north. We've been working in direct, meaning right on the fire's edge from the east side of the lake, utilizing a lot of that scooper aircraft that you guys have been seeing videos of. And the good thing about that is the turnaround is quick. I mean, they just scoop it up, turn around, drop it. Just doing laps around there. So we've dropped, large amounts of water in there. So that's really been advantageous for our crews to be able to stay in here direct right on the fire's edge. So we have line all the way into Wilson Creek area with hose all the way up to Wilson Creek, and they're beginning to mop that stuff up from the fire's edge all the way to Wilson Creek. And then from Wilson Creek out to the east to the old Bearskin fire, we have dozer line in there that is holding this edge, and they're beginning to plumb that with hose, working to the east to the Bearskin fire. So really, we have line all the way in from the lake, all the way to the old Bearskin burn, and we're beginning to mop all this up. So that's looking really good, and we're feeling more and more confident that this isn't going to continue to move north. But in the event that it does, we are kind of like these other spots here. We are continuing to prep and put in some indirect line just in case, you know, we get more advantageous conditions for increased fire behavior, that we have that this contingency in place in the event that we need it in the future. Over here on the west side of the lake, they are continuing to mop these spots up, these little spots that are out on the peninsulas here. Those are all looking really good, and no real concern there. Those have had a lot of mop up done on them, so we're not worried about them moving at all. And then over here, there's one little section. This map isn't quite accurate, and we're going to clean that up today. We got some folks out there following the fire's edge to make this make a little bit more sense. It's not really quite this far out, but we're putting a little chunk of dozer line in here, and what that's going to do is lock this west side off to prevent fire movement up around the west side of the lake. So once we get that in, again, we're pretty much locked off from this piece up by Deadwood moving north. So our big main concerns, our big priorities on the fire are looking really good from moving north here out of Deadwood and west here towards the communities. So that's what this fire, you know, the inversion that we have had, you know, yeah, I don't like it either. It's horrible, but there is a silver lining to it, that we have been able to get in there and do a lot of good work in the last couple of days to really take care of these priority sections that we've wanted to get taken care of to prevent any of the values, your homes and everything from being impacted. So really overall, two really good days that we've had, and done a lot of really good work in there, making us feel a lot better about protecting all the values that you guys have out here. Without any, if you guys don't have any questions, or I'm happy to answer any questions at the end if there's any questions. I'll stick around for a little bit, and yeah, that's your update for now, and we'll give you another one in the next couple of days, and hopefully it keeps trending in the direction that it's going. All right, thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Chris Waverick, Agency Administrator, representing the Boise National Forest. You guys have given us quite a few rounds of applause, but I'd like to give you a round of applause, if I could. Help me out here, please. So you've heard us talk about us wanting to build a team with the community, us wanting to be good ambassadors for the forest, and we want you to want us to come back. And I hope we're building that reputation and that relationship with all of you, because that's something that we were struggling with at the beginning. 2 weeks ago, it was a much different story in this community. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of chaos. Wasn't good communication. We heard you, and we're trying to deliver on your needs. So I just hope we're doing that. Oh, another round of applause. All right. It's so good. So thank you for bearing with us as we got our feet under us, as we were able to address those concerns and pick up the pace and try to produce a great product out there. I really want to thank the Great Basin Team 3, Brett Waters and all those folks. They've done an outstanding job. Probably one of the finest IMTs I've ever worked with, to be honest. I'm a ranger now, but I fought fire for 25 years. So I've been around a few teams, and these guys are excellent. So, and then the last thing I just want to say is it was great to meet everybody here, be part of this community. I know we don't all have like one-on-one relationships, but I hope in the future, if another incident occurs and I do need to come back here, we can start off where we left off. I live in Chalice. I'm only a few hours away, so I'm always willing to come over and help if I can. That being said, tomorrow's my last shift, so you won't see me again, but I want to introduce Dano Howdigi. Dano, if you want to come up real quick, and just, you can say hi if you want, but Dano is on the hook for the rest of these. This is my last one. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Dano Howdigi, Agency Administrator Trainee, and Chris is correct. I had a chance to work with the Great Basin team earlier this year, and they are absolutely one of the best I've ever dealt with myself. And one of the things when we had first met with them, when I was training on that one, was I love communication. The more communication we have, the better it is for everybody. We don't want folks filling in blanks. And so tell it how it is, show them what we're doing, and make sure that they understand. And so thank you. That was perfect. That's exactly what I needed to hear too, being my first day. So I'll be around, not replacing Chris, just filling in behind him. But again, Dan O'Hadigi, I'm the agency administrator trainee. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Brett Waters, IC of Great Basin Team 3. Thanks for coming out in this beautiful smoky evening that we have. Our IMAT and fire behavior analysts gave us some good information. And with this smoke, the last 2 days, even though it's not nice living in this smoke, it has given us some opportunities that we've taken advantage of. If you can see from the briefing, we've gotten a lot of work done in this terrible smoky condition, but it has moderated the fire behavior so we could really go after it. And going direct, which is right next to the fire line itself, is better than anything. If we can get that controlled, that line right where the fire is, and then we mop it up, and mopping it up is making sure that it's cold and there's no fire, internal in that black area. We've got that opportunity because of this smoke. So we have definitely taken advantage of that. As I said before, Mother Nature's in charge. Well, Mother Nature's given us a break, and we're taking advantage of it all the way. And as Brad said, we're still building those contingency lines, because where Mother Nature can help us, all of a sudden we got a frontal system coming. It's going to warm up. If the relative humidity goes down, the fuels get drier, then consequently it could get pretty western again. So we're not going to just hope that we can handle this. We're going with those contingency lines, so we're sure we can, or we're as sure as possible that we can cover these things. Highway 17 open. We're going to try to keep that open as long as we can. We see what we're dealing with the with those fires that are kind of adjacent to Highway 17. We're watching for that. We're going to continue to monitor those. We don't expect anything to hit them hard. We're working really closely with the sheriff on trying to keep that open. You've got a lot of rocks. They come down all year long, so nothing's new there. And so we're really going to try to keep that open as much as possible, so that the folks from Loman and can come this direction also, or you folks can go towards Loman. The evacuation zones, as that threat's going to go away, we're communicating with the sheriff all the way through, and those will be changed. We're working really closely with the Garden Valley Fire Department and with the Loman Fire Department. We've got some folks over at Loman tonight. Their fire department meeting is tonight, and we wanted to make sure they have all the information also about what's going on and the great work that's been here. They're kind of trapped between us and Wapiti, and so we're going to make sure we can help them as much as possible. And as Chris said, we asked for us to work it together as a team, and you folks have been great. The community is a team, the forest is a team. We have the team that comes with me, and we all work together. And we've been successful doing that. So please, if you have questions, concerns, already we've been here for over a week. That we are an open book. Please just reach out to us with anything. We'll be happy to have those discussions and give you good, straight, honest answers all the way through. So thanks again for all the support, for coming out tonight, and then we'll go to the question and answer period.
Okay, do we have any questions? And please wait for the mic to come to you, because we're doing a recording, and it's much easier for the folks that aren't here to hear the question as well as the answer.
Hello, I'm Vandy Forrester. I live in Terrace Lakes, and I grew up in big cities, and I always wanted to be a fireman. And every time I come into one of these things, I wish I had your uniform on and I could get out there and fight some fires. I congratulate you all for what you do. We are all proud in this community that you're here helping us, and we want to thank you with all of our hearts for each of you. Now, that having said, I grew up in a big city, and so I have to use the big city vocabulary that I know. I lived in New York City for a while. That may be a dot on a map for most people, but I actually did the public relations for the New York City Fire Department. And so I feel at home sitting here. That's having been said, my family and I now live in a community called Terrace Lakes here. And it's hard for me Terrace Lakes is a little place, but we think it's a big place. And can you take a moment and tell me what Terrace Lakes looks like in terms of the fire activity around in this area? Is Terrace Lakes looking okay for a while anyway? And I thank you in advance for answering that question.
Well, thank you so much for your appreciation and your hospitality. And as far as Terrace Lakes is concerned, I'm going to have to hand you off to the operations folks who might know better.
You're going to have to tell me where exactly Terrace Lakes is. I haven't heard that term yet. Maybe one of the Crouch? Oh, in Crouch? Say that again. So right over here? Okay. Yeah, so right in this area? Yeah, that area is looking really good. Really good. Because like I was saying here, when we turn the line black, so you see how all this line around the edge is red? That means we don't have containment there, or haven't mopped it up, haven't gone through and ensured that we don't have hot spots on the line. So where you're located here, we have black line all the way from here around the corner, all the way back in here. So that with that black line being in there, your community of Terrace Lakes is looking really good, and there shouldn't be really any concerns for you in that area. And that's why we recently today, I believe it's right up in this area, changed your evacuation from set to back to ready, because we're feeling comfortable, really comfortable with that area where you're at. Does that answer your question? Okay. Oh, you're welcome. And I tell you, I'm a structure firefighter when I'm not out here, and I'm a real big fan of the FDNY, and I kind of really into their history. So that's a cool. I'd maybe like to chat with you after. That's kind of a cool job you had there. Another one.
This is just a curiosity question. I've heard this structure protection phrase from you in the daily updates, and I'm interested, just out of curiosity, to understand better how that works in terms of, are you all protecting, when you say structure protection, are the people already gone? Or are they in there? Or do you still do the same thing even after the people left? Just
So
understand.
so when we say structure, so do you live in one of these communities here?
I'm asking more for these subdivisions over.
Right. So when we say structure protection, or we have a structure protection group, it doesn't necessarily mean everybody's evacuated out of there, but we want to get way out ahead of the fire. So we have time, everything is relative to the time and how fast the fire moves here. So
And it sounded like some of the people were asked to evacuate.
Yeah, well, you know, that's all from the Wapiti fire. Over here, we have the Wapiti fire way back up in here off the map. So they're being asked on the Highway 17 corridor, you know, east of Loman, there's a couple of little communities there. They were put into a set evacuation level, and that was due to the Wapiti fire coming this way. But to answer your question, for structure protection, people can be in there. We're just getting out there, getting the lay of the land, or finding all the structures, make sure we know where they are, make sure we know where the driveways are, how to get in and out. Anything we can do around the houses to improve, you know, the chance of that structure not being impacted by fire. So that can take a long time with, you know, with this many houses out there. So that's why we've been out here the whole time. In the event that this comes this way, we're getting a good plan together. And so, you know, and when it does come this way, we have somewhat of a plan and are organized when we're going to implement that plan. What's that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was for the Wapiti folks. But like we said, we're in communication with them and kind of know what they're doing, and they know what we're doing, and so. Right. Yeah. And then as the fires grew, it, you know, it was a little much for one team, so we split one off, and there's another team up there. You're welcome.
I have 3 quick things. First of all is the huge monstrous thank you for these huge monstrous fires. You guys have just been amazing. The second thing is just a kind of a tip that people may want to know. We changed our HVAC filter today. Whoa, what a mess it was. So just to tell people that if you haven't thought about that, that'd be a good thing to do. We also have a few of those portable HEPA filter machines for air filtration. Makes a huge difference. So anybody's having trouble with the smoke, it's a good idea. And then finally, I was wondering, after all of this is over, what will the efforts that have been made and the fires that exist now, how will they affect potential future fires? Will they be helpful? Will they be hurtful, et cetera?
That's actually a pretty good question. So, you know, after we get this fire out and done, and we've been gone for a while, one of the things that we do is we try to clean up our mess really well, rehabbing all the lines that we put in and all those things to kind of make it back to how it was before we were here. All the impacts we did to the natural resources, we try to clean that up as best as we can. But with your question, these fires definitely helped, and it's helped on this fire drastically. As you can see, we have fire scars kind of all around where the Middle Fork complex is. And if you look at it, kind of these darker gray shaded areas are the old fire scars. If you look at it, it's moved right through where there's no old fire scar. So if we didn't have the big Pioneer scar here, we would have been having major problems with this thing going way further out here. Or if we didn't have this rattlesnake scar up here, this fire would have moved west right through that without slowing down and kept right on going. So these fires that you've had in the past have definitely been beneficial to our operations and keeping this fire to the size that it is. So if you just look at the pictures, and maybe they can put one online of a better depiction, because we have a couple maps of the old scars of just how this has kind of worked through the old scars and kept it kind of this narrow pattern instead of, you know, growing out in all directions due to the previous fire scars, if that makes sense.
I have a question, and you may have answered it already. And I do want to say I appreciate how much hard work you guys do, because my husband and I are hunters, and when we hunt, and I complain that it's getting a little warm. And you guys are out there fighting in all this heat and against the heat of the fires. On that note, we have a cabin just south of Lightning Creek on the other side of the river. We're on the west side of the river. And where we hunt is up Scriver Creek, which is Forest Service Road 693, which Yeah, and I think you talked about trying to keep that area safe. They just closed that road, and I was just curious, like, how long? Because we have a special hunt that we worked hard to get.
You'll have a better, agency administrator, a better answer for that.
So for the Scriber Road, I think I know, I'm pretty familiar with that one. Down in here somewhere. Yeah, I'll actually have to talk to my liaison officers and see what the duration of that is. It is in a spot where the fire has slowed down. You know, we were talking, we were showing containment on the edge of the Bulldog there, and so it's hard to forecast, you know, how long it'll take. But if the fire continues to behave and we're able to keep getting around this thing and these strategies of this hand line that are going to steer the fire off into the old fire scars are successful, I say we'll be able to open that sooner than later. I can't give you a date though. But let's, after the open meeting, sit up here and talk around the map.
That works.
Okay.
Back on the last question, they were talking about how you have to rehab all this and talking about the roads. What do you guys do? I mean, we have such large areas that are post-fire. How much do you plant trees? How much are trees coming back in the old areas like Pioneer? And how are these areas going to look in 10 or 20 years or even 5?
So, yeah. So the first thing I'll mention is all that red area is not completely black. Not every tree in there is dead. And the incident management team's done a great job of being patient and letting fire back down the hill where they can. Because when the fire backs down the hill, it's much less severe. If you light a fire from the bottom of the hill, it's going to go through the treetops and kill everything. So I think you're going to see a lot of green trees after this. And this is a fire adapted ecosystem. You have lodgepole pine, which have cones that need fire to regenerate. I took a trip up to Division November the other day, and in the Pioneer Scar, I was seeing lodgepole coming back that are this tall. So that's 7-8 years later. So it's a very healthy forest from what I've seen. You have a lot of large ponderosa pine, pretty open understory. And so when you have a fire like this that hasn't burned, I haven't seen it. Well, it burned severely in some spots where it took everything out, right? But in spots where it backed through and it burned the underbrush, if you get a fire in here in the future, it's gonna be less severe. It's not gonna want to get up into the canopies. And that's where we want to be in the future, is not have fires that take out the entire, forest for 50,000 acres. We want little manageable things. So with all these scars in the history, we're getting there. We're getting there. The planting, I can't speak to that. I know there's a thing called the Replant Act right now nationally, where they're getting us to go look at what are the burned acres, where do we need to revegetate. That would probably be in areas with ponderosa pine, not the lodgepole. That takes care of itself. So your silviculturist would be out there looking for places to replant. And then as far as stability of the slopes, we'll be looking at areas that may be less stable. So we'll do some flights that map the severity of the fire and look at slope steepness and how stable is the slope. And you have a lot of unstable slopes here. You have that decomposed granite. So odds are you're gonna have slides, you're gonna have blowouts, you're gonna have a muddy river. But we're gonna have suppression repair teams, burned area emergency response teams, and burned area repair teams, all three coming through in different phases to try to repair the landscape where they can. Obviously, we're not gonna seed 54,000 acres, but if we do seed something, it'll probably be where there's a dozer line. So we wanna prevent the weeds. Those are they take advantage of any disturbance on the landscape. So those are a few things that I see in the future of this. I see a very healthy forest. It's going to naturally regenerate. They may plant, but I don't know. So does that help? Okay. is my last night. Come on, guys.
I'm sorry, I'll make this quick. You know, you're familiar with the, your age, I'm not sure, but 1989 Loman fire, that slope across from the highway is really steep. We were worried about erosion, but it's amazing how that's filled. I know they planted some, but some of it's natural too.
Yeah, if you can get it to start revegetating, those roots will keep. You're saying it revegetated and it's not sliding? Yeah, yeah,
It looks rocky, but the vegetation came in thick.
yeah. That's great, and that's what we want, you know. So, like I said, you have a very healthy forest. I come from the Salmon Chalice. We have a lot of insects and disease and a lot of dead trees.
I have another quick question. Are you interested in talking to someone who has land to plant seedlings, like ponderosa or other native plants that you could use?
Yeah, there are grants. I can't speak to the specific grants, but Forest Service and the state, you know, we work together on grants for private landowners to do things like take care of weeds. Tree planting, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, but we do a lot of Firewise stuff where we can get grant money to go thin vegetation around your property. Yeah. So yeah, I'd be interested in talking to you too. You want some more? Okay. I'm gonna start singing. It's not gonna be pretty. Any more questions? Oh, there's a hand. I don't know if it's gonna be for me though. We'll see.
Yeah, the Forest Service seems to be wanting to destroy roads due to some federal government stuff and that, you know, they want to restore everything back to nature. Of course, you can't just take things back to nature. We've got people living here. And they're destroying means of egress. Up the Middle Fork, if we get trapped in by fire, they've given us really lousy egress. We used to be able to go easily up over the top and come down Smith's Ferry. But now you'd get lost trying to get there. It's just ridiculous. And that coupled with people who have taken a mile of forest and gated it off have made another barrier. Is there anything that can be done to reverse some of this stuff? Short of a revolution.
Well, yeah. So that's a tough question. So one of the reasons roads are being closed is just the lack of our ability to afford, to maintain, to keep roads open. A lot of times when we do a timber sale, we're required to close the road once it's done. I hear your frustration. Being a firefighter and any of these firefighters in this room, you know, it's a lot easier to get to a fire and fight it if there's a road getting in there, right? So we understand that. Roads come with their own problems though too. And so there's a balance there. But like I said, if we can't maintain them and the culverts get plugged and they blow out, it's no good to anybody. So it's a real tough issue. I can't give you an answer right now saying there's something nationally being done to open more roads, but I can say I do hear you, and I'll share that with folks that I work with. Sounds like a bureaucratic answer, but I can't solve the road issue right now.
Just quickly, I'm assuming that the road is open between Loman and Idaho City.
Alder Creek Road will get you there. You don't want to go that way?
The highway.
I think 21 is open. Has anybody heard 21 being closed? Okay, yeah. Yep.
Maybe I can throw out the final question. I leave on Tuesday. Would this gentleman, Toby, be able to fill in my slot for me as a public information officer? Because I think I heard him offering that a little bit earlier. So I'll clean up my desk and you come into the office on Tuesday.
Absolutely. We could actually probably put them to work up on the fire lines. I do have an extra Pulaski that I'm not using. Are there any more questions? All right. Well, I didn't hear you. Our last day of work is on Thursday. I believe that's the 5th of September. Yep. Anybody else?
I live in the city of Crouch, and I have a lot of animals in our neighborhood that are very prolific. Rumor has it that these animals that have been moved out by fire will go elsewhere. Should I anticipate more animals in my neighborhood? And that's a good thing. I like them. But what kind of animal behavior do you see with the fires?
Well, in your area in Crouch, since the fire has cooled down a lot on the edge, you'll see less encroachment of the animals. And it turns out that wildlife actually like burned areas. And we think it's because of the salts that are deposited on the surface after the fire. So most of the time with fires, we see animals move back into the fire area. And they'll roll around in the ashes and lick the salts that they can find there. So we expect a little bit less of that than you would see when the fire was really active. Okay, good question. Any others? Okay, well, we'll be sticking around for a while and happy to talk to you face to face. So come on up, and thanks for coming.